Have you ever kept a secret that felt like it was slowly eating you alive from the inside? Today, we're diving into a top-voted Reddit story about a woman facing an impossible choice between protecting her unborn child and dealing with her attention-seeking sister's destructive behavior. Let's start reading this emotional roller coaster. The pregnancy test sat on my bathroom counter for what felt like hours. Those two pink lines staring back at me like a promise I wasn't sure I was ready to make. At 28, this should have been a moment of pure joy, my second chance at motherhood after the devastating loss that had shattered my world 2 years ago. Instead, my stomach twisted with an anxiety that had nothing to do with morning sickness. I could already picture my sister's face when she found out. Emma had always been the type to turn every spotlight toward herself, but pregnancy announcements seemed to trigger something particularly desperate in her. The memory of what happened last time still burned fresh in my mind. It was 2 years earlier. It had been a crisp October evening when I first shared the news of my pregnancy with my family. My boyfriend Mark and I had been together for 5 years, and everything felt perfectly aligned. Our stable jobs, our little house in the suburbs, our shared dreams of building a family together. The dinner table erupted in congratulations, my parents beaming with pride as they talked about becoming grandparents. Even my stepmother couldn't stop smiling as she immediately began planning a baby shower. But Emma's expression had shifted from surprise to something I couldn't quite name at the time. Now I recognized it as envy, raw and consuming. Within weeks, she had made her intentions clear. "I think it would be so totally cool if we had babies together," she'd said with that manufactured innocence she'd perfected over the years, her voice taking on that slightly whiny tone it always did when she wanted something. They could literally grow up as best friends and stuff. The rational part of me wanted to point out that she was barely 21, still in college, with no job and no place of her own. But Emma didn't deal well with rational conversations. Instead, she threw herself into her mission with the single-minded determination of someone who couldn't bear to be upstaged. 2 months later, she called with her own announcement. The family's reaction was starkly different this time. Where my news had been met with celebration, Emma's pregnancy was greeted with concern and barely concealed disappointment. She was furious at everyone for not matching the enthusiasm they'd shown me, unable to understand why bringing a child into an unstable situation might worry the people who loved her. "You're all just, totally jealous that I'm having a baby too," she'd screamed during one particularly heated family dinner, her face flushed with indignation, her words tumbling out in that breathless rush they always did when she felt cornered. She dropped out of school shortly after, moving back in with our stepmother and settling into a pattern of dependency that would define the next 2 years. Then came the night that changed everything. My labor started 3 weeks early, and what should have been a routine delivery turned into an emergency that left me fighting for both our lives. The harsh fluorescent lights of the delivery room burned my eyes as doctors moved with urgent precision around me. The C-section saved me, but my daughter, my beautiful, perfect daughter, spent 9 days in the NICU before her tiny heart simply couldn't fight anymore. I held her as she slipped away, the weight of her impossibly light in my arms, feeling like someone had carved out my chest with a dull knife. The grief was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, a weight that pressed down on me every morning when I woke up and remembered all over again that she was gone. Emma's baby was born right on schedule, healthy and screaming. While I was planning a funeral, she was posting hospital selfies and complaining about sleepless nights. The contrast felt like salt in an open wound. But what came next was somehow worse than the loss itself. Emma turned out to be exactly the kind of mother I'd feared she would be. She treated her son like an accessory that had lost its novelty. Milestones went uncelebrated and undocumented. Quality time was a foreign concept. Instead, she'd drop him off with family members for days at a time so she could go out with friends, as if motherhood was just another responsibility she could delegate when it became inconvenient. "Can you just, watch him for a few days? I literally need some me time," became her constant refrain, delivered with that casual entitlement that suggested she genuinely didn't understand why anyone might find this problematic. Watching her neglect the gift that had been torn from my arms felt like a cruel twist of fate. Here I was, aching for the chance to capture every first smile, every attempted word, every tiny milestone, while she couldn't be bothered to engage with her own child. He was nearly 2 now, and still communicated primarily through grunts, his development delayed in ways that made my heart break for entirely different reasons. The worst part was knowing that Emma hadn't really wanted to be a mother at all. She'd wanted the attention, the sympathy, the unconditional support our family had shown me. When that support came with expectations and responsibilities instead of just admiration, she'd lost interest entirely. Now returning to the present moment. 3 months into this new pregnancy, I found myself facing an impossible choice. My family had agreed with my decision to keep the news quiet for now, understanding my fears about Emma's reaction. But the secret felt heavier with each passing day, especially as I began telling other people in my life. I'd almost worked up the courage to tell her this weekend. Almost. Then I saw her Instagram story and my blood ran cold. "Going crazy this summer, BCI, I'm manifesting a baby girl next year," she'd written, accompanied by a series of baby emojis and hard eye faces. I stared at my phone in disbelief. She couldn't hold down a job. She didn't contribute to household expenses, despite living rent-free with our stepmother. Her current child was struggling developmentally while she prioritized her social life over his needs. His father was actively pursuing custody, concerned about the environment she was providing. And yet here she was, already planning baby number 2. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. The timing felt like more than coincidence. Emma had an uncanny ability to sense when attention might be shifting away from her, and something in her behavior lately suggested she suspected I was hiding something. The Instagram post felt like a warning shot, a declaration that whatever I might be planning, she was ready to compete. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine telling her about the pregnancy. I could see her face lighting up with that familiar calculating gleam, already planning how to make this about her again. Within months, she'd be pregnant again, demanding equal attention and support while providing none of the stability or commitment that should come with bringing a child into the world. The thought made me sick. My stepmother, who had been caring for Emma's son while trying to maintain her own life as a school teacher, was already overwhelmed. She loved her grandson fiercely, but she hadn't signed up to be a primary caregiver at this stage of her life. Adding another child to that situation felt unconscionable. But keeping this secret was eating at me. Every day that passed meant more people who knew, more chances for the news to reach Emma through someone else. And if there was one thing worse than Emma's reaction to planned news, it was her rage when she felt deliberately excluded. I pressed my hand to my still, small bump, feeling the weight of all the choices ahead of me. This pregnancy was supposed to be about hope, about healing, about the family Mark and I were still determined to build despite our devastating loss. Instead, it felt clouded by the exhausting reality of managing Emma's emotional volatility. The question wasn't really whether I was wrong to keep this secret. The question was whether I was strong enough to handle the fallout when the truth finally came to light, and whether an innocent child should have to pay the price for his mother's desperate need for attention. As I sat there in the quiet of my bathroom, pregnancy test still in my hand, I realized that sometimes protecting the people you love means making choices that feel impossible. Even when those choices leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about family, loyalty, and the complicated mathematics of love. That's the whole story for today. Honestly, this woman is caught in an impossible situation created by her sister's toxic behavior. I'd say she's a solid 1 out of 10 Slytherins. She's basically a Hufflepuff trying to protect everyone while drowning in guilt. Definitely not the jerk here. What do you think? Should she tell her sister or keep protecting her peace? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the ride. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to help me reach my first 1,000 subscribers. It really means a lot. And hey, if you're still craving more drama, mystery, or chaos, check out the next story right here on the screen. See you in the next one.